It's episode
And we're
7.
Yay!
And I'm refreshing to make sure that we are live. Are we live? Who knows?
I can't tell, but
just keep playing.
okay.
Da, 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 da.
Opa.
Episode 7 of the
Episode
show.
7. It's a show. Hey, we're live! Yay!
Yay! Welcome, everybody. So excited to have you here. So, Becca, I think this is a great segue. Just jumping right into the show and tells of our week. First of all, how was your week? How has your week been?
My week has been good. Well, sort of. On Monday, everybody in my house was just like over everything. Oh, I just saw my hair through the headphones. This is a lot. I'll just keep it. It's fine. It's a visual medium. We'll let it go. No, this week has been weird. Like, I think that the novelty is now completely worn off, and now, like, I'm just tired. Like, I asked my sister, how are you doing this week? And her answer was, like, my soul is exhausted. And I was like, that's, like...
relatable. Honestly, very
so
relatable.
So that's where I'm at. My soul is exhausted for no particular reason other than, a global pandemic and, rain.
Understandable,
I don't know. How are you?
I'm doing good. As you may notice, I'm decked out in, I'm getting I forgot our logo, Becca, so important. Oh my goodness. Okay, there we go. Oh, brand association. Speaking of brand association, as you can see, I am decked out in, what's this? All of this Microsoft apparel. These leggings actually have pockets. Very exciting. A big step for women in tech, if I do say so myself. We are getting ready for Build at Microsoft, which is usually our really gigantic conference that we have in Seattle, where people from all over the world come and give talks and talk about all the things Microsoft. But of course, we're all doing it from the comfort of our own homes. So I'm super excited to do that next week. So I am decked out in this Microsoft apparel. I'm just a walking advertisement. Well, I would say a walking advertisement, but the only person who's seen me is my boyfriend today. But also...
And all of the fine people on the chat.
And all of the fine people on the chat. But this is a sneak preview of my show and tell today. The reason I'm wearing so much Microsoft apparel is I'm sharing this Apple computer that belonged to my American girl that is from my childhood that works. First of all, I got to show you.
Wait, actually?
Oh yeah, listen to the startup noise. Hold on. You hear that? It's like a little MIDI sound. Here's the mouse pad. American Girl. As you can see, I still have all the pieces. And you can actually click through it's kind of a reflection. Okay, here we go. There's like a spreadsheet in here, and it's like my trip to the planetarium, and there's like a little chart and stuff. So it still works if you can believe it. It's like one of my prized possessions now, and I've had it on my desk for a while, but I brought it out for a little commercial thing that I filmed last week for Build, so I'm having fun with I figured if I'm going to show an Apple product, I got to wear all the Microsoft swag today. But I've been having some fun getting ready for the Student Zone, which is for students of all ages to come and learn about Microsoft stuff. And April, Vogan Code, if you follow her on Twitter, and I will be doing something we're announcing very soon, but it might involve a robot. There may be a robot joining us next week, Becca. We might have a robot guest.
I'm so excited.
So get ready for that. You may do a virtual, you can tell people that you've done a virtual Mando duet with a robot, potentially, if I can.
That's a bucket list item I didn't know I needed, but I definitely need that now.
Yeah, totally. And this is not on an Animal Crossing island. This is real life, baby. Amazing. Very excited to get a new roommate tomorrow. So stay tuned for that. We'll have I'll be doing some announcements tomorrow on that. But I saw on Twitter that you played your mandolin for what was it, a couple thousand, 100 people in your PJ pants this week?
Yeah, there were 11,000 people over the course of an hour who watched me play Mando in sweatpants and no bra. Reddit has a live streaming feature, which is incredible because you'll see people playing music and playing video games or whatever, but then there'll be people having staring contests with onions, or my favorite stream of all time was a kid taking his pet rock Cheeberg for a walk around the neighborhood, and he had a little rock with a smiley face on it and Sharpie, and he brought Cheeberg down the slide, and
Oh
he
my
just
gosh.
and there were like, I think there were 5,000 people watching concurrently as this kid took his pet rock for a walk, and it was the most like insanely weird but heartwarming thing I'd ever watched. And so I've been doing a lot of these music streams because they're an excuse for me to play a whole song.
Okay.
And so I was playing a bunch of absurd covers last night, you know, your Backstreet Boys and NSYNC and Britney, as one does on a mandolin. And then I saw a comment from Reddit's VP of Engineering and VP of Product popping in to say hello, right as I was finishing up a cover of Dick in a Box by from the Lonely Island at SNL.
I was like, I love Lonely Island. One of my favorite concerts I went to in the last couple years. Oh my goodness, Michael Bolton made a cameo appearance, blew my mind.
Amazing. Let's give a shout out to those Berkeley natives.
Yes, Berkeley.
They all went Berkeley High. Heyo. But yeah, so that was a pretty funny deal to be playing Mando for my boss.
So how
which
does
is
that,
also funny.
How does it work? Like you just go like. I've never used that feature of Reddit before. Like, is there just like you can click on anything that's live at any given time? Ooh.
Yeah, so it's 24/7. If you click RPAN, you'll see streams, and they're divided into like 10 or 15 different subreddits. There's gaming ones and music ones and cooking ones and specific topic-oriented ones. And then on Wednesday, the kind of general subreddit r/pan for public access networks, so Reddit Public Access Network opens up, and yeah, you can stream anything pretty much, like within our content policy and stuff, reasonable expectations. But it's fun because every other streaming model counts on you having followers.
Yeah.
And on Reddit, we assume that there are people who want to watch things, and the best content, floats to the top really fast, and then people watch it. Whether it be, there's a woman who she plays piano. She has this like badass red electric keyboard, and she'll get 50,000 concurrent viewers. But the guy who is sitting in his bathtub with a watermelon and rubber bands, putting rubber bands around the watermelon until it explodes, will also get 50,000 concurrent viewers. And it's just funny that you'll be like scrolling through looking for something good, and you'll see that, and then somebody will be washing their pet lizard with a toothbrush.
Oh my gosh. I need to get on this thing.
And you never know what you're going to get. It's fun.
Because I clicked on it the other day, like after you posted it, and at first I was like, is r/pan like a pan flute enthusiast subreddit? Like I was like, what is this? And then I went there, and I guess I searched r/pan because I was like, what is this? And the first thing that popped up was like, someone said, well, someone just watched me cook eggs live. Like 100-something people watched me just cook an egg and put the eggs in the fridge. And I was like, this is the content I live for, honestly.
Yeah. And it's so beautifully mundane. And that's what's fun about it, is that like you see some incredible talent and incredible professional musicians and professional chefs. We've had some authors do book readings over RPAN recently, which has been pretty cool. But yeah,
I have to check this out.
It's so fun. It's absurd.
As you know, I'm a newbie to Reddit. We have a special guest today who's also, what do you guys call yourselves? Redditors, or are you?
So the term we use internally is snooze. So snoo is like the mascot, and so snooze are employees. But
is that the little alien?
That's the alien guy.
A snoo. We have another snoo. I don't know what the plural of snooze.
Yeah, sure.
I took a nap. I took a snooze. Today. We have another snoo joining us today.
We do.
And I'm new to Reddit. I recently got very addicted to a lot of RuPaul's Drag Race subreddits. Ooh, we have to ask our guest what his favorite subreddits are. I love Hold My Juice Box, as I've mentioned before.
So good.
I also love, I've recently discovered gifts. It's something like gifts that you can hear.
Gifts that keep on giving?
There's gifts. Noisy gifts. I love that one. So how do you think, I think we should introduce our guest with a tune, as we usually do. And then we have a special treat for our audience that has to do with surfing and dogs. So we'll get to that in a minute. So.
All right. We can't travel. We cannot go to Aruba. But we can talk to Andy Tuba. He plays tuba for you, but not right now. And we're gonna chat with him, don't know how. Alright, that's what we're gonna do today. So yay! Yay! So guys, we want to introduce the incredible Andy. Yay, Andy!
So,
Hello,
Andy,
hello.
welcome to the show. One of our
I'm delighted to
favorite
be here.
humans.
Oh, shucks.
Truly, Andy Tuba. So, a little bit of a preamble of how I know Andy. Andy was actually one of the folks who was helping with whiteboarding practice when I was going to Hackbright. And then Andy eventually met Becca at a meetup that I was throwing. So I just gave a talk on networking last night. That's why I'm so tired at 11 something. And I was telling people to think about networking as friend making because I hate the word networking and it's terrible and it makes me think that I'm in like a business power suit and like drinking a beverage and being like, hey, here's my business card. But truly, this was like a beautiful friendship moment where Becca had just gotten her offer at Reddit and Andy was there at this event and it was a beautiful meeting of future fellow snooze.
It sounds weird when external folks say it. Just say admins.
I mean, it's kind of weird when we say it internally, too.
Synergy
That's
admins.
fair. But yay, Andy, welcome.
Welcome, Andy.
Andy, how are you and where are you?
Yes.
So I am at my home office in the Castro in San Francisco. I'm enjoying people walking their dogs outside. If I get distracted, it's because of dogs. It happens a lot. I'm doing all right. I mean, I also have that general malaise going on from, how do the kids say it? Gestures everywhere. But yes, I'm glad that we still have the internet to bring us together for not just networking, but friend making.
Friend making. So I thought that a fun way, we kind of teased this obviously in the description of this video that we're doing today, but we got to do a really lovely thing, one of my favorite things that I've done as of late, probably in the last couple years, which was see dogs surf. So I thought it could be really fun, and I will get this set up in the background, Becca, so you can do a little dog surfing intro if you would like.
No, the man goes down.
The man goes down. But we got to see dogs surf, and let's talk about this real quick. The Dog Surfing Championship is an actual event, everyone, that exists in the Bay Area.
In real life.
In real life, where dogs train so hard all year to be the best surfer. And truly, I thought this was a fake event, like one of those Area 51 events that you see on Facebook. But this was a true life thing that we got to see live. So I thought it would be really fun, since we can't go outside, to relive these precious moments in our lives of dog surfing. So I'm going to share my screen here. Here we go. The power of the internet. This lives, if you want to watch it with sound, you can watch it on my Instagram later, but for the sake of not making everybody hear echoes, here we go. Okay, so we're going to skip through this.
So the background is we drive down to Pacifica knowing it's dog surfing by name only, and we know nothing else. We get to a beach, and there's a lot of puppers. We're very confused. They're napping. They're super cute. And then we look at the ocean, and we I don't think any of us figured out what did we imagine it would be, and then we saw it, and it's kind of exactly what you'd imagine it would be, but that doesn't make it any less insane.
Yeah,
there were literally dogs surfing.
Literally, look at this good boy. He is so good.
This floaty boy.
And
he's even got his safety equipment on.
Here's the dog getting ready, getting prepped for the event. Here's some dog friends. This dog had a bikini on. You can't see it though. Here's a dog with a mohawk. I've seen this dog in the Castro a lot, Andy, so keep an eye out.
And the owner also had a mohawk though. They both had blue mohawks. Yeah,
that's right.
They were very fit. They did pair surfing together, like both of them on the surfboard at the same time.
This one was really good because he was like low to the ground, so he could his center of gravity was really good. Also, you guys can't hear the sound, but I can. But for those who want to watch it later, you can hear me yelling, "You're a champion!" through this whole thing.
You're all very good dogs. You all deserve gold bone.
And there's little handles on all the life jackets so that the owners could pluck them up and put them on and off the boards. It was the cutest thing ever. And I remember Andy, I think you showed up later and you just kind of walked up to us and were like, I think I'm here for this. It was one of those, I don't know why or how I'm here, but I am living for it.
it was a beautiful moment in time, and truly, like, if when this quarantine is done, it's gonna be the event that I am in, like, there at 5 in the morning for once it happens again. I think I even told Becca and Andy last time, because there was no announcer, so we didn't know the dogs' names, we didn't know how they were scoring. So I said that next year, I guess that would have been this year, that I was going to hold a megaphone and be like, all right, this one's name is Sparky, he's got a mohawk, he's doing great, and just take over the event, because I really wanted to know the stats of these dogs. But when I think of like outdoor activities, I fondly think of dog surfing. But enough about dogs. Andy.
Enough about dog surfing.
I was going to go up to the other side of Ocean Beach to CorgiCon.
That's right. Have you been to that before?
I've been to CorgiCon twice. Well, once and a half. I showed up late last year.
Wow.
And there were like the corgis were. I saw lots of corgis just kind of petering out, and you're like, oh, that one's a lobster. That one's dressed up as like a drag queen.
Beautiful.
Yes, they were wonderful.
Amazing.
You know, when you drive into if y'all have been to the Bay Area before, and you drive into the Bay Area from the Sacramento area, there's a racehorse track, and typically they do horse racing there. Probably not right now, but there was a wiener dog race that happened at Golden Gate Fields, where in between every horse race, they had these wiener dogs on the field. They didn't do the whole lap. That would be way too much ground to cover for a wiener dog. But they were racing these wiener dogs, and it was the cutest thing, because either they were like, yes, I'm running across, or they were just like, just kind of looking around, digging. So I look forward to all the dog activities that will happen. Hopefully, I hope we're not still doing this in October, but I hope that people post a lot of photos of their dogs in costumes, because a corgi lobster sounds adorable.
A corgi lobster does sound incredible, but you know what else is incredible? We're going to do a really awkward pivot transition right now. So let's go.
A segue.
So Andy is here. We don't really know anything about Andy other than he is a dog surfing enthusiast. So Andy, do you want to tell a little bit about your background and how you got to Reddit, and maybe give a little background on Res, because I think that's a nice little segue into next stuff to talk about.
Sure. So, I'm a nerd by both pedigree and training. I grew up with nerds. I was formed by the nerds, and I now work at a nerd company. So I seem to have kind of a brand, which is nerd. Yeah.
And tubas.
And tubas, which also
so nerds.
Yeah. I've got, and yeah, my parents were like math teachers and like statistics teachers, so like I grew up with a computer in the house. So like super privileged there. Parents, if you want your children to succeed, give them a computer, let them program it. They will end up doing bad things on the internet, and then they'll get paid to do it. It's great.
Yeah, I think that's what my boyfriend ended up doing too.
Yeah. I was actually just reading the article yesterday about like some hacker kid who got picked up by the FBI, and his backstory was like his mother tried to control internet access, and he's like, that's cool, I'm gonna reboot the computer into safe mode and turn off all those parental controls you just put on. That was also me. And my mother was like, okay, we need another tactic here, which is giving you good values and not trying to like authoritarian our way out of this problem.
Fair.
So grew up as a nerd. I went to college at the University of Delaware, fighting blue hens, for computer science and theater production, technical theater, so working behind the scenes, doing lights, doing sound, a little bit of design. I fumbled my way through set design because I just would rather plug things in than like bolt them together. This has been a recurring theme in software development, where I would rather just plug things in instead of like figuring out how they connect. And after college, fumbled around for a little bit, ended up in Wisconsin working at a couple of software companies out there, and eventually made my way back to the Bay Area, which is pretty rad. So yeah, I got to work at Imgur, and now I've been working at Reddit, and kind of my big foot into the door into working at these two kind of social media internet hubs is open source. So
what's open source, Andy?
Yeah.
Open source. Oh, let me tell you. So open source is kind of a movement, and I'm actually wearing an emblem of the movement. This is the Hacktoberfest t-shirt.
Hacktoberfest!
Yes.
Love.
So that'll be something to do in a few months. So we can get back to that in a minute. So open source is if you are making software and you would like to share your software with the world, or you're making software and you would like to go get something else that somebody else shared, especially if you don't want to pay for it, you can go to GitHub or GitLabs or a variety of open source hosts and say, hey, I want some software that will do, I don't know, let me make a Twitter bot for generating shitposts. And there will be about 50 packages for that on GitHub or on whatever your preferred open source place is. And you can download them and you can remix them. Sorry, remix is a glitch phrase. Glitch is another great open source platform that's a bit newer. And yeah, so long story short, it's software that's open. You can go look at it, you can go play with it, because the source code being like, how is it written? Like, what are the literal phrases and blah, blah, blah that's like creates the software. So you can go look at it and you can go mess with it and potentially use it.
So when you say mess with it, you're saying there's public code out there that, I write code, I stick it on GitHub, and then I say, all right, other people, if you want to use this code, go for it. And then is there a way for other people to give suggestions to me for my code if there's a way to make it better, or they want to add features to it? Is that a thing?
Oh, that's totally a thing. Yeah, it's all about hanging out with your friends and telling them that their code could be a little bit better. So, we've got mechanisms for this. We have official vehicles for giving your constructive criticism, like your design crits. And if you're using GitHub, if you're using GitLab, if you're using Fabricator, Fabricator you'll use for within a company. So if you're doing inner source. But yeah, you put so let's say we have a project. Let's say this project is called Reddit Enhancement Suite. And this project happens to be a browser extension that lets you add little bits and pieces to the Reddit website. So there's a lot of features there. People constantly want to add new features. So one way that they can do this is they go to GitHub, they find Reddit Enhancement Suite on GitHub, they download their own copy, they hopefully reach out first and ask, will you folks even accept my change? So can I contribute this back to the main project? Versus I just want to do this on my own. I'll keep it on my own personal copy. So you make your own personal copy. You do your tweaks to the code. So you take this application, you add a little bit on your own, and then you're like, okay, cool. I want to get some feedback. I want to potentially have this be part of the main project that gets distributed worldwide to the many decimal points number of people who are using this project. And that is called a pull request. So pull request is
vocab word.
Yeah.
We'll pretend there's a...
Yeah.
We'll put that in post-production.
Yeah, we'll put it in post.
Excellent. Yeah, editor. Yeah, who's our editor? So you have your pull request where so on GitHub, we'll use GitHub here because it's popular. And that's also where Reddit Enhancement Suite is hosted for the source code.
And the product of Microsoft.
Is it owned by Microsoft? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, we're very well branded today. Actually, this is DigitalOcean branding too. And so yeah, other people, specifically the people who run the main project, will say, oh, we see that you have this chunk of code here. It adds some new little feature. Hopefully you've documented it. Hopefully you've followed all of the recommendations that the project contributors have listed, because that's a thing you can do with GitHub. You can specifically add in this little file that says, if you're adding something, here's how to do it. Here's your path to success. Please follow these instructions. So hopefully people follow the instructions. If not, then we get to coach you through making your pull request.
So before we get there, Andy, how did you get involved with Res? So Res is Reddit Enhancement Suite. Do you remember what the first change you wanted to make is, or what that change was? Or how did you stumble upon this project and decide, I want to be a part of this?
Right. So I started using Reddit back when I was living in Wisconsin, and I was very bored in the afternoons and evenings. So I went and hung out on Reddit because that's what you do when you're a bored software developer. And
that is canon.
Yeah, this is very canonical. And back then, so this was 7 years ago, a while ago. It may as well have been 20 years ago. And back then, the Reddit desktop website was it looked a lot like Craigslist. So it was extremely functional. It was extremely white and blue and black. And you could use Reddit Enhancement Suite as a product on top of the main Reddit website to add a little pizzazz, to add some keyboard shortcuts, to like, if you want to like embed imagery or videos, like to just like add all these nice little bells and whistles. Sometimes things that would actually go like dink and so
Fancy.
yes. I noticed it was missing one bell. I personally wanted this. And after I saw somebody else posted to the community, the subreddit for Reddit Enhancement Suite for Res, saying, oh yeah, we would like this too. I'm like, I am a software developer. I can make this happen. Both for myself and for the benefit of this one other person who said that they would want it. So the feature that I wanted was just this very tiny tweak where, so Reddit has notifications like many social media websites, and there's the view for looking at notifications. When you click into the notifications view, it'll show you your unread messages or your unread notifications by default. I was constantly clicking it, double clicking it, or like the site would break like occasionally because there was a lot of downtime like 50 years ago. And so I was like, okay, I have a little fix for this where instead of only showing me my unread messages, which, you know, as soon as you click into your unreads, they get marked as read, they disappear. I'm like, okay, I want to read all of my messages because I'm addicted to social media. And, you know, problems that we're not going to discuss this hour. That's for my therapist. And so I'm like, okay, this little tweak is like, instead of showing unread messages, I'm just going to make it just this tiny little tweak so that button always shows me all of my messages so that I can get my dopamine hit. Nice. And potentially go back and see stuff that I missed if something broke. So I put in this like little feature ad. It gets released. It gets pushed out to several bajillion people. About 10 minutes later, somebody posts a bug report and is like, hey, this thing isn't loading the page I thought it was. I'm like,
oh no!
Yeah. So these are my first 2 pull requests to an open source project. The first one is adding a feature. The second one is fixing the bug that is live in production.
So I love this story as an anecdote because I think that pushing new code into production is one of the scariest things. And like, I actually put this on Twitter. I get scared every time I push anything to prod, because particularly to scale like Reddit's, like if something's wrong, you know very fast.
Yeah.
And like it was so encouraging to see really, really experienced engineers with, 5, 10, 15 more years of experience be like, oh yeah, I'm always terrified when I push to prod, or I expect everything to break. And it's so normal that you make a product, it breaks, you fix it, lather, rinse, repeat, and it's fine. And I love that was your first experience with open source. And yet instead of running away and being like, I'm a bad engineer because my first pass at this didn't work, you said, I'll keep going.
Yeah, I was like, well, I'm not getting paid for it. They're not going to fire me. So.
And I also think there's something to be said. I'm not sure if y'all have been up to date with a lot of the security issues that have happened with some closed source open API things that have happened recently with Google Maps and some Facebook things. So there's really like a lot of value in having an open source product and having the ability to jump in there and not have people kind of take advantage of these bugs by having, the ability to contribute. So it's, of course, very intimidating when you get a bajillion million people being like, you broke it. But I think what really clicked for me with open source when I first started learning to program, my boyfriend explained to me this concept that I had not heard before, which was sort of we stand on the shoulders of giants and that we don't need to reinvent the wheel for like every single thing that we build. Like probably if there's something out there, it's been built before unless it's a very specific thing. So I always think of open source not only as a way to be a good community member and contribute and to be able to like help build the products out there that you really like, but to help like make the things that already exist like so much better, which is exactly what you did, Andy, with that first pull request.
Yes. Yeah.
Like, give me the noise.
Yeah. I've had a lot of fun being like, okay, I want to build something for myself, but it takes a while. Usually it's really buggy, and I spend all my time, like I'll get like halfway through it, and I'm like, maybe I should have just used somebody else's product. And then I go and I look up somebody else's product and I'm like, oh yeah, they did it way better than me, and I just want to add this little bug fix, and it's fine.
Yeah.
I mean, it balances out sometimes where it's like, you may want to go add something to a new project that the core maintainers are not super interested in pushing out to the rest of the world, and that's fine. Like, you can keep it to yourself because it's open. You can compile it, you can run it yourself, you can share it with your friends. Like, even just the act of putting that pull request out there, it's in the public. People can go download it and patch it in themselves to their own personal versions, even if like the core version, which may have a very strict roadmap, or the contributor may not be touching it anymore. You can still fork. You can go, like a fork in the road or in the railroad tracks. You can go take this other version and work with it. I mean, that's like, you look at Linux. There's 50 versions of Linux because there's the core version, and then there's all of these other variants because it's open source. That's the whole shebang.
So what advice do you have for people that are like, oh, I want to get involved with open source, but I only know maybe half of the words that you just said, and I'm like a little new at this and very overwhelmed, hypothetically, of course, because this is not my own personal situation, and if it were, I wouldn't admit it, but hypothetically.
I have a suggestion, maybe not for you, Becca, but maybe for folks in the chat who are not, because you have at least a basic understanding of what open source is, but maybe for some of the folks who are joining us who have no idea what it is, and actually, Andy and Becca, you might really, really like this as well. I saw a keynote, this is going to blow your mind, by Joseph Gordon-Levitt at the Linux Foundation's Open Source Summit, if you can believe. What? I promise this is all going to make sense. So I was like, what's Joseph Gordon-Levitt going to talk about at this open source conference? Third Rock from the Sun? No, he has this website called Hit Record where they open source artists. So basically, someone will post a project. And so I think it's a really interesting version of open source for artists that maybe is a little bit more palatable and understandable for non-technical folks. So it's a website where literally, let's say I want to make a music video, but I am just an actress and I can sing, but let's say, well, I do know how to do this, but let's say I don't know how to, I want a narrator of an older man for this like music video thing, and I want stories about the moon, and I want, and I don't know how to play piano, or I don't know how to play mandolin, and I want someone who plays mandolin. You can literally post a project on Hit Record. It's this basically open source for artists thing, where someone will say, I need the following artists to do these 4 things. I need stories about the moon, because I want to do this music video about the moon. I need a voiceover recorder. I need someone to play this mandolin thing, and I need the art for the, the visual art for the design thing. So you can actually open source this art. So if you're kind of trying to understand like, well, wouldn't you just join a company or build a thing? This is like just a platform that really exists for other artists to contribute and build upon like bigger artistic projects. So that may be a very like simpler, like less technical version to explain it. But for someone who maybe is looking to get started on the technical side of things, how would you recommend that, Andy? Back to Becca's question.
So, I guess there's 2 kind of big paths to finding an open source project that you would like to contribute, where you want to join this team. And my path was, I found a product that I used that I wanted to see a little addition to, and I found that it was open source. Like, so I Googled around, I hit the website, and they're like, oh, hey, it's open source on GitHub. And I said, oh, cool, I can contribute. So that's if you have an itch that you want to fulfill of like an actual product, that is something you want to create. But let's say that you're just looking for something to do. You're like, I know how to write JavaScript. I don't particularly care which project I'm going to work on. I just want to like find something to work on. So that's where projects like Hacktoberfest are really great, because they really encourage people to they encourage project maintainers to advertise that they're looking for help. So they've been doing this for a few years now, and you'll see other similar ventures where it's like encouraging project maintainers to seek out help.
And there's usually a free shirt involved, so I'm always a fan.
Right, yeah, the free shirts are great. You get some good swag. Plus, you get your name in the credits. And the way that you can find them is like these listings like Hacktoberfest, or if you just go on GitHub, you can search the entirety of GitHub for a label that is help wanted.
Ooh.
So you just like you would like GitHub advanced search, and you find the label thing, you just type in help wanted, and then you just get this nice big list of all of these projects that are just looking for a little help, and you can filter by like, oh, project that uses JavaScript, a project that uses Python, a project that's like, I can't even code yet, but I want to like help out writing documentation.
You could add an Oxford comma if that bothers you in someone's documentation. You can just hop in there and contribute. Contributing to docs is also a really great way, open source wise, for maybe non-technical folks if they just, or if you're a little nervous and you don't want to break anything. An easy entry level way to get involved.
Yeah.
I love that. So one of the things that I thought about after Hackbright was getting involved with open source. Like, as somebody that really didn't know how to do pretty much anything, felt like it was out of reach, because if there was ever a task that I could do, then it must be so straightforward and simple that it would take longer to explain to me how to do it than it would to actually do it. And so, Andy, I'm curious what your thoughts are as somebody that, has obviously worked your way up in the ranks, and you've gone from being that junior developer to now mentoring and managing junior developers. Like, how do you think through that balance when somebody wants to get involved, but it is often more difficult for them to, and getting them over that hump?
So my deep philosophical take here is the most important commodity we have is time. Like, we can get money by, going out and running, I don't know, Grubhub orders. But sometimes it does, in fact, take much less time to explain, I want you to take this widget and put it over there. But you can then, as just this, inexperienced developer, like, muddle your way through, and it might take you a few hours to figure out how to do it, where I can give you some pointers. I can say, hey, here's where the source code is, here's a tutorial for this. I could maybe spend some time, like, individually coaching you through it, especially if I want to, the first word that jumped to mind was indoctrinate, but that's not quite right. If I want to train you up in this particular project, like especially if I have an employee who's new to my team, or like a contributor who's new to my open source project, and I see promise with them and I want to keep them contributing, then I will personally put in a lot of that coaching time. But, I mean, I don't necessarily have to put in that one-on-one. There's so many tutorials out there. There's plenty of things where it's just like, hey, I wrote this ticket up, here's my idea, please go take care of it. And like, I've already put in this effort to be like, I have a bunch of product ideas, this is what I want to see done. I don't personally have the time to do the implementation and the testing and the documentation, and there's just a lot of overhead that, it's really just, it's a lot of labor sometimes to get something like really production ready, where I can just spend 10 minutes saying, like, here's what I want. We wrote up the contributor guidelines one time. So that contributor guideline will tell you, what does something need to be ready to go out to the world. And you can just put all those pieces together. And I mean, this is the same way it works with any creative venture. Like, if you're working in theater and you're like, hey, the director has given a 5-minute note to the actor that says, I want you to, like, be crying, dramatically in this particular scene. That actor can then go rehearse for like half an hour with their stage manager and come back, and the director has gone off and done something else with their time. And
Andy, my dad is going to love that comparison, because he watches this show, and I know he's going to be so confused by open source because he is very non-technical. So thank you for the Frank Condon description.
Hi, dude.
Hey, dude.
How you doing? Yes, I did literally get a degree in storytelling in theater and also computer science. So
that's so true.
Let's frame all of open source in terms of dogs acting in a play.
Yes.
Have we mentioned that we're nerds before? Have we hit that piece of, like, this is very much a nerdy zone?
Oh, was it the leggings? What was it? Was it the American Girl computer? What was it that gave it away?
Yeah, maybe it was like the weird puns in the wall. I don't know.
I love it.
Yeah,
that's incredible. So Andy, your ability to make open source seem approachable is awesome. Like, I was today years old when I stopped being comically intimidated by open source.
It's
so
very
don't be surprised
intimidating. It's
It is.
like,
Well, because then if you put up a pull request and then the response is like either silence, which sounds terrifying, or just like you're stupid, no, like that also sounds terrifying. But I
and
guess
then
that's good to learn that way.
there's the whole other side of the coin, which is being an open source maintainer. And I know that a lot of people out there have talked about like, oh yeah, like I had this project and it's my baby, but now I work full time at XYZ company, Airbnb, whatever it may be. And then there's all the pressure from the community of keeping it maintained, but you don't have the time to manage it. So it's kind of an interesting like community group effort, but I've seen so many wonderful open source projects, or I use a lot of open source projects. One of my favorite ones is nes.css, which is a CSS library that's Super Nintendo themed that I used for my Mario Kart astrology project. Love the group that does that. My coworker Jasmine also works on an Animal Crossing Chrome extension plugin, I believe, that I'll link in the show notes.
Why not?
So it's really cool to see like
Amazing.
like-minded people come together, build these projects no matter how nerdy or insane or like, niche they may be. And they're just, I feel like open source has such a passion to it. Like the people who do work on open source, they do it because they love the product that they're working on. And they really want it to stay alive. Stay alive, Hamilton reference.
Dropping on Disney Plus July 3rd, just saying.
Yes! Oh my gosh, I meant to text
I don't
you
have
that.
Disney Plus, but I'm about to.
The marketing worked on Becca. Anyway.
Disney.
Not the Mandalorian, just Hamilton.
Yeah.
I have my priorities straight, and I will not be bullied for it.
DuckTales is on there too, Becca. We're not sponsored by Disney Plus, everyone. We promise.
We're not sponsored by anybody, guys. Not the point. So, Andy, I have a different question for you, which has to do more with your experience working with folks with non-traditional backgrounds. Because as you said, you came through with a CS background and industry experience and open source, and then, working at some big social media companies, Imgur and now Reddit. And I'm curious what your impression is of folks like, Chloe and myself, who come through the boot camps, and kind of what your takeaways have been kind of working with us. And
Yeah, how did you get involved with Hackbright in the first place?
So I got involved with Hackbright because our dear friend at the top of the Reddit hierarchy chart said, you know what? I would like to see more people from diverse backgrounds working in tech. So Steve Huffman, the Reddit CEO, actually became a Hackbright mentor, like 5 years ago. And so he'll personally go and like be coaching people in how to get into tech and how to become good coders. So he extended that to, since he had this personal connection with Hackbright, he said, hey, would anybody be interested in volunteering for this event? So we'll bring some Hackbright people over to Reddit to do whiteboarding sessions.
Which the nerd in me was so excited to go to the Reddit HQ at the different building at the time, but we're like, oh my god, this is where the magic happens.
Yeah. That was a fun HQ. And so we brought in a bunch of folks who had been working several months in boot camp, and now we're prepping to go out back into the industry and claim their place as software developers. So we wanted to help them practice, like, how do you get through that interview process? Because, there's school's one set of skills. Working in tech is a different set of skills. Interviewing for tech, a third set of skills.
I feel like that should be a boot camp in itself. Like, you do the boot camp, you learn how to code, and then you go to I guess it would be your master's would be in learning how to interview as an engineer. Because no one tells you that when you sign up.
And then your PhD is administering the interviews.
Yes, exactly.
So there's actually a Stanford class, I think it's Stanford, that is specifically how do you interview to get into Google. And we saw this, there's like a little write-up about it, about how there was a lot of Stanford grads getting into Google. And we're like, well, why? Is it because they're geographically nearby and they can get internships? Well, yes, a little bit of that. Is it that they're getting an excellent education at Stanford? Well, yes, a little bit of that too. But specifically, they have literally trained to do interviewing. So some folks were like, you know what, let's level the playing field. And let's take these lectures from Stanford and put them out as like a Udemy course or something and make them available nationwide. And lo and behold, when people get to train in interviewing at how to get into Google, suddenly you have people from across the nation, across all these different demographics, and not just like Stanford grads, now working at Google. So yeah, you can literally take classes in interviewing for technical stuff.
Yeah, I think that's like one of the most, now when I have folks who come to me and say, hey, I want to learn how to be a software engineer, like where do I get started? I always make sure that they have because I feel like, I don't know about you, Becca, but when I started at my boot camp and when I talk to some other folks who've gone to boot camps, no one really sits you down and says like, do you know what these interviews are going to be like? It was sort of like hit me in the face like a wall that I was like, you mean I don't just walk in and say, hi, I'm a nice person, I completed, it seems like such a bizarre concept for very senior folks to even have to study for these interviews. And I remember, Andy, you were such an amazing teacher, because I know it can be very intimidating. I used to audition as an actress and have to tap dance in a room, which felt like, okay, that's easy compared to like having to explain and walk through an algorithm in front of strangers. But I very vividly remember Andy being such a good, like, interviewer and practice person, because he had a lot of empathy for these very scared, soon to be new grads. So do you, as far as what you do nowadays, Andy, I want to make sure, because we have a couple more minutes left, you have a really unique title at Reddit, and I would love to know kind of what it means to do what you do. So what is your official title? You are a...
Okay. So I work I'm transitioning into being an engineering manager in the consumer safety team within the anti-evil, sorry, we're doing the whole hierarchy here. So consumer safety is like a 5-person team. We're 5 people plus our designer and our product manager within the anti-evil engineering group, which is within safety engineering, which is a division of Reddit. So yes, I work in anti-evil. It's super cool.
Wow.
It's exactly what it sounds like, too.
Yeah, you get to beat up villains and like stuff like that. In Gotham?
So we have
yes,
3
it's
teams.
All in Gotham.
Yeah, we literally my team is the Incredibles. Like that's our internal code name. The other 2 teams are the Defenders and the Wonderbolts.
Wait, are you serious? Is this true?
Yeah, the Dublin folks are the Wonderbolts.
That is great.
Stop it.
So what does safety mean at Reddit for maybe, like, so explain it to my dad. You don't have to put it in dog and theater terms.
So safety covers a bunch of different concerns. So we handle, one of the long-standing concerns we've handled is spam. So if there's just somebody trying to flood the website with a lot of advertisements and...
like Ray-Bans. Buy my Ray-Bans.
Yeah, cheap
it's
Ray-Bans.
15% off.
Right. So we get a lot of junk that comes through. Yeah, so we clear out all the Ray-Ban junk. There's also people trying to come steal your password or trying to get into your account, just trying to like pose as you. So we try and lock those down. Within
vote manipulation's a big one.
Yeah, vote manipulation.
People artificially try. So if people build bots to try to like make this specific post or comment like get super popular for whatever reason.
Yeah, so there's bots and there's also like human armies. So if you go back and look at Reddit history, like a couple years ago during the 2016 elections, people were saying, "Oh, isn't there like the Russian troll army?" And we're like, "Well, yeah, there was." And we did like one of the folks in the safety team, a couple of folks, teamed up and did an investigation and said, "Hey, we have surfaced. Here's a few hundred accounts that, by our judgment, are from the Russian troll army trying to influence, the discourse around the American election." And that's all public and open. There's blog posts about it. The accounts have been frozen so that people can go for academic purposes, go analyze the stuff.
So safety and freedom of speech and news and upvotes, truly.
Yeah, we're trying to maintain the integrity and sanctity of the platform. So within consumer safety, very specifically, so the word consumer is like people who are using Reddit.com. We're focusing on like you pick up your phone, you use the Reddit app. We are working on features to help keep you feeling safe and happy and secure. If somebody is hassling you, then we're trying to build out tools to either catch that early and kind of squelch it, or to say, like you can say, "I'm not feeling safe. and give you these tools to kind of make that go away.
So if someone's
And-
trying to dox someone or like put their information on the internet or something, you are literally the team of superheroes, the Incredibles, that can come and be like, bad guy, no! Get out of Reddit! Also, someone just said, can you add a segment called Can You Explain It to My Dad? Absolutely. I think that is a new segment that Andy has helped us create.
Yeah. So another thing that I want to shout out Andy for, because he's too humble, is his team did a whole partnership with the crisis text line, where if somebody posts on Reddit and they're like, yo, I want to kill myself, there was no way prior for other users to be like, hi, can we prevent this user from killing themselves, please?
Wow.
And they built out a streamlined flow so that you can get that person help through the crisis support line, or crisis text line, excuse me, and get law enforcement involved. And there's been a lot of stories over the years of people on Reddit kind of getting in touch with various law enforcement organizations on behalf of other Redditors to protect them from themselves.
Yeah.
But this team built out a full-on flow. So when we talk about tech literally saving lives, like, I don't want to be hyperbolic here, but objectively, this is the kind of work that can actually save lives.
Andy's a
alongside
real
all the
life
cat videos.
superhero. You should be the superhero. I mean, Andy, you're the coolest person.
I would like to say that I am a facilitator of superheroes, because now as a manager, I'm coordinating. I get other people to do the real work, while I partner with we produce a lot of documents, and we just like tell people like, hey, like, take this thing and take that thing and plug it together, and here's the way, and then suddenly we have a suicide hotline plugged into the site after a couple months.
So you're Commissioner Gordon from Batman.
Yes, I wait for somebody to like flash a bright shiny light at me.
You put on your trench coat and you're just like, Batman. What was it like? How long have you been a manager for? Is this a recent thing for you?
Yeah, so I've been working my way up over the years, and so Reddit has two different career tracks. We separate out the engineering, the individual contributor, which is to say you just write code, or you like produce architectural documents. Yeah. And then there's the manager track, which is you're overseeing people. So once you hit a certain experience level, it basically boils down to, are you overseeing projects and kind of long-term vision, or are you making sure that people get stuff done? And I, in the last 6 months, have been transitioning from the architectural engineering side over to the engineering management side. So I end up still doing a lot of both. But now I'm more directly participating in the management discussions of like, what do we want to do this quarter? What do we want to do this year? And then once we've decided on that, like, we're actually going into that in like the next 2 weeks. But once we get into a particular project, saying, okay, here's this project. The designer has said it should look like this. How does that at a high level translate into what we actually build? And so I will take like the big chunks and split them out and just like write them down as to-do items to split out amongst my team and say, hey, this is about how I think it should look. Does this seem right to you? What do you need to know in order to get this done? Where do we need to connect things together? And so I'm very much being a cog within an organization of not just 5 people, but it's a big company. Like, it's a 650-person company. So like this morning, we were in a design discussion where one of my team members was presenting a proposal on like how to build something to a team of like 20 experienced people, including our CTO, Keith Sosa, as Chris Lowe. So I'm just like hanging out, going like, yeah, that's right. Mm-hmm. Yes, that thing that she's explaining. Yes, that's right.
Synergy. Will it scale?
Yes. So then we have like 10 people who are very experienced programmers, both in their own rights and at the company, asking clarification questions. So we have this process of like people giving advice to each other, and I'm just sitting back and being like, "You got this." Yeah. Oh, hey, I didn't. Yeah.
A proud moment. Proud parent.
Yeah, it's cool.
One of the things that good managers do, and Andy has never managed me, but I have bugged Andy a lot as kind of a mentor/manager figure, is they enable people to do their best work. And so they will, chop down, trees and clear out the debris so that I can just walk along that path and everything will be nice and smooth. And I think what's really fun about people going from engineering into management is they understand the life cycle of stuff. And so there's people that are managers first and like they know how to deal with people and they trust you to figure out the technical side of it. And then there's managers that could be doing the technical implementation and are choosing not to. And it's really cool to have people on either side of it. And I think that for folks looking to get into the industry and set yourself up for success, having managers that have been technical is one of those things you don't necessarily know to look for. But I bring it up because my first manager, who shout out to Prashant, who's phenomenal. He's probably not watching, but he's great. He was a Hackbright mentor actually, but he was an engineer first, and so he was able to make it very clear what had to happen. And he could sit in the meetings and say synergy, 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 and then he could sit down with me and explain in a really nuts and bolts level what had to happen. And I think, Andy, you have a similar style. Like, I've often gone to you and been like, I wrote this really ugly piece of code. I know there's a way to make it cleaner. Help me.
Give me a
multiple
makeover.
times. Literally, it's like, I have these, loop after loop. Can you help me write this in a pretty way? And he'll just respond with like a tee, sure. And like, that's what's fun to have in seriously, as a teacher, as a manager, as a guide. And so for folks looking to get into the industry, find yourself an Andy because it's very helpful.
Yeah.
I want to loop back really quickly to something you asked about 20 minutes ago, which is working with people who come from non-traditional backgrounds, who if you don't come from a computer science background into software development, if you come from musical theater or you come from world studies, whatever, which is you bring a lot of knowledge about how do you work with people that I feel like I kind of missed out on my computer science degree just because we had a lot of independent projects, but you bring a lot of just generic problem solving strategies. But thinking of Prashant in particular, he also came from a mechanical engineering background before he got into into software development. So I had Prashant was my mentor for a 3-month period, and we would talk a lot about like there's this process of when you have a physical factory, if you're producing widgets that you're going to go sell